I don't understand. I really, legitimately, I don't understand. What does investigation mean? Because I think that's a key word that I've seen in some emails going back and forth. And
so the
why don't you tell me
adjuster
about that?
in the policy has an obligation to complete the investigation, right? To complete an investigation, a full investigation. And if you support new evidence, if you submit new evidence, the investigation is not complete until that evidence is addressed. So they have to complete the investigation. They do not have to give you a reinspection without new evidence because the investigation is closed, it's completed. So you can request a reinspection, but you have to present the new evidence.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Browns Roofing Podcast. Special guest is today the renowned Devin Cannon. Devin, why don't you start off with a little intro, tell us who you are, where you're going, what you've been working on.
I'm a project manager of the Baton Rouge branch for Browns Roofing. I've been working on mainly just trying to fight a lot of these overturns in our market. We seem like we're having a lot of denials and a lot of repairs or replacements is mainly what's going on here. There's not a whole lot of things getting approved off the rip by the insurance carriers, and I don't know what's the cause of that, but I know that it's a fact that it's happening. And lately we've just been working on trying to figure out common denials and common reasons for common approaches they take to denying it and narratives that they try to build and how to overcome them using various methods. We seem to kind of have we've been having some good luck just staying in our sandbox as a contractor and really just fighting it from that angle and using codes and manufacturers' instructions to really get a lot of those turned on their heads.
Devin, I wanted to bring you on, man, because you've been doing awesome work. It's been fantastic seeing you, watching you grow, watching you kind of take ownership of this stuff, and you are becoming a subject matter expert. Man, what's the most important thing that we can do to kind of change our perspective from the way that we've been handling this stuff?
I guess that's kind of dependent on your perspective, but I think that the most important thing you can do is to know your craft and have an understanding of what you're doing. And like I said earlier, staying in that sandbox, like you need to own your sandbox. You need to rule that sandbox, and you need to know as much as you can about the craft that you're working in to really be an expert on all that subject matter and bring, especially insurance related claims, like bring them into your world and explain to them things they don't know in order to get the results you want, and I think that's the biggest thing. Just know what you're talking about and know your craft. I'm learning.
Do you know your craft?
Better at it every day.
So how has this helped you on your personal? Like, what's changed since you started to go down this rabbit hole?
Goes for me, or just in what?
Just how has your effectiveness to service your homeowners changed since you started to dive into this?
I think it's changing, and it's changed a lot. I've actually been able to look at my homeowners and tell them, like, look, this is probably what they're going to do. This is probably what you're looking at. You do need a roof. It should be covered under most policies, and I think this is the game plan that I know this carrier. I know what this carrier does. I know how he reacts. I know their common objections. I think this is probably how it's going to outline. And it may not work like this, but most likely this is what I've been seeing in the area, and this is what's going to happen. And that gives them tremendous, when it plays out that way, just as I said, if it does, which most of the time it does, that gives them a tremendous amount of trust and faith in me as a contractor. They think I really know my stuff, that I'm on top of it, I'm fighting for them, and I am fighting for them. I do want what's best for them. They really, because there's always a gap in trust. They don't know you. They don't know you from out. So when you're sitting there showing them that you're trying to help them get what they deserve, what they've been paying for years, and that you're on their side and you're going to be fighting for what's best for them, it really puts you in the same alignment with them, and they, it goes a lot further for you for sure.
What's one that you got overturned recently? How'd it feel? What happened? How'd the homeowner feel? Did you get any type of satisfaction out of it?
Overturned most recently was actually a safe point claim. Guy went out there after this last little hurricane we had 4 or 5 shingles blown off. I got up there. He had some exposed decking. The safe point adjuster wasn't there. She'd sent out a signal adjuster. She told the signal adjuster to tarp it. He couldn't. Had cap nails. They're not allowed to damage the shingles. So unless he had sandbags, he wasn't allowed to tarp it. So then she asked me if I could tarp it. I went to tarp it, and and she ended up giving him no money for the tarping after he paid out of pocket, and leaving him high and dry and ignoring him for a couple weeks, and like 12 shingles is what they gave him. We ended up getting that thing turned to a full replacement and got his tarping bill covered, and we're putting that. We're actually helping him with his deductible with the tarping money. So that felt good. He thought it was just high and dry, out of pocket, and when getting that needed a roof bad, he thought he was just gonna find somebody to replace those 12 shingles out of his own pocket, and now he's getting the whole roof replaced for actually his deductible.
Yeah. So, I mean, what did you have to overcome during that one? I mean, what was your approach? What did you have to do? I mean, how did you apply this particular subset of information into that property owner's experience?
I used repairability. The roof was only 11 years old. It actually had some delamination going on pretty bad all the way across the back slopes. So I argued that if I went and replaced these 12 shingles the way that she wanted me to, I would also have to. It would also affect up to 6 to 8 shingles around it in the process of it, right? And in the process of all that, and I showed her that with pictures and photographs and all the damage that was accrued just from removing a shingle. And then I went to the back, and there was a lot of unsealed shingles back there. I was like, look, in order to properly fix this, I'll have to. There's like 80 unsealed shingles, like manually seal every single one of these, and you're gonna accrue charges for this, plus there's the tarping issue that we had that you never paid. So I just stacked a bunch of that against her, just common things that repair process, and then charging them individually for the repair process. That's what I was telling her, and I never actually had to do it. She saw it and agreed to it and just bought it for my estimate, because it was probably going to end up costing her almost the full amount of the roof just for me to do the repairs.
Why would it cost?
I mean, if you're doing, when you have that many labor hours tied in, and that many manual sealing points, and all the rest of the repairs actually expand to 2 or 3 squares, and you're doing it on a per shingle basis, it adds up pretty quick,
Do you feel like she tried to work with you? Do you feel like she was pretty reasonable, or did you feel like you had to kind of push?
So when she started speaking to me, she bought it. Like it was just like a delay in the process, and I think she tried to burn the homeowner and get away with one. And I hate saying it like that because I don't know that for sure, but that's what it felt like, And it didn't take much pushback at all. And luckily I'd had correspondence with her, and I'd been following up with emails. So through that process, I had, follow-up documentation for the tarping and stuff like that. So I did have proof that she told me to do it. Now, she didn't say it, but I did say per our conversation, I think after she saw that, I knew what I was talking about, and that she had kind of left him short on the tarping, and that there was a lot of repairs, and I sent in another 120 photos. Like, I think she was just like, okay, I think, it'd probably be just best to buy this before we dig a hole,
One thing you said when she started talking to you. So was there a point, what does that mean?
Common for the carriers just to delay claims. And there's a bunch of theories on that, but like just to delay them as long as possible, and hopefully they go away. As long as you're staying on top of it, keeping your homeowner informed, making touch points, involving your homeowner is huge. If you can get the homeowner to be corresponding with them as well, and they're not answering the homeowner, then you have a problem, right? So having the homeowner involved, keeping them updated, having multiple touch points, phone calls, email follow-ups, just staying on top of them, I believe, is really important during those situations.
Dude, I gotta ask, you've been doing these microscope reports, kind of weird, never really seen this before. What is that? Why do you use that? Just on a high level, I mean, what's the deal with the microscope?
So a lot of times they'll get up on a roof after a hailstorm, and they'll look at some of the damage around there, and they'll try to attribute what we consider hail damage, or what is hail damage, to different factors: natural wear and tear, manufacturer defects in the shingles, blisters is one of their favorite ones. There's certain guidelines to what they consider blisters. If you look at the HAG certification, hold on one second, I'm sorry. Yeah, so there are are some anyway. So when you're talking about blisters, manufacturing defects, there are classifications and there are parameters set for that are classified, and you can look at it and look at the definition. They have definitions for these things, and tell whether that is a hail strike or one of those things they're saying that it is, right? So what the microscope does is you bring the microscope in and you can find the definitions for. If you find the definition for what is to be considered hail damage, there you'll see broken matting, embedded granules, all kinds of stuff that's relevant to hail and hail strikes. And if you can find that, it disproves things such as blistering, which wouldn't have any broken matting, wouldn't have any embedded granules in it, there wouldn't be any bruising in the matting. But you can prove these things with microscopic photos without actually detaching and looking into the mat and stuff like that.
So I just need to do a microscope on all my inspections, send it in, and I'll get every roof paid for.
It's not going to work on every single one, because sometimes it's not going to be what you think it is, in all honesty. Sometimes it isn't going to be hail damage on that microscope report, or the hail is going to be so fresh that you're not going to be able to prove that's what it is, because you're not going to be able to see the broken mat. If it's not a large enough hail, it just places a little bit of granules. And even then, it's still subjective to the carrier, right? What it will do, though, most of the times, will get you re-inspections and bring it into question and make them not be able to just outright deny the fact that it's not hail. They can't just say, hey, it's not hail. Because if you bring it into question with evidence and proof from the roof itself, then a lot of times they'll come out and give you a re-inspection. Probably most times they're going to come out and give you re-inspections if you bring in to question the damage that was on the roof and what they're claiming it to be.
I heard you talk a little bit about presentation, presenting. That being important. What does that mean? You say evidence, you say investigation, you say presenting, and I need some clarification.
So, presentation is extremely important, because if you don't know, if you can't pass it to one of your colleagues and look at it and him not know what he's looking at, where he's at, where it's on the roof, or if it's on a roof even, how is that adjuster supposed to know that? And so you have to be able to present and explain in pictures or in a report exactly what you're doing in the process of what you're trying to present to the adjuster for him to review. So presentation and presenting damage as in the correct format is very important, right? So as far as you have to present evidence, right? We just use that word evidence. So you have to present evidence to the adjuster. So how you present it, and knowing where it's on the roof, and knowing which roof you're on, and knowing where you're at on the roof, and having everything labeled, and everything's got to be explained. You got to paint that story, and you got to paint that story perfectly to get them to accept this as evidence. And then once there's evidence, you're going to get some type of reaction after they see the evidence, for sure. What that is, re-inspection, expanding coverage onto a slope, a lot of things will come off of that, but you're going to get some type of reaction.
Why do you call
That's just common policy language, and that's something that the adjuster has to review. So anything that is relevant to damage on a claim, you're presenting that as evidence. It's something they don't have. They have to take that into account. And that's something that they have to review all evidence on the claim. That's why they look at collateral, not just like this or that's that. Like they will have multiple different groups of evidence that they bring together to make a decision, right? On a claim. Yeah.
I call it damage.
Damage works too, but I mean, evidence.
Damage
works too.
Not what I'm supposed to do. I've always said, right? Hey, here's the damage.
You can't make a call on that, right? So damage is subjective to you, and he can disagree with the damage, and that can put a halt to it right there. If it's why.
Why? You said put a halt to it. What do you mean?
Because you say it's damage. I've already photographed this. I've already seen it on my last inspection. It is damage. I mean, it's not damage. And that's it. It's your word against his, and he's the.
So are you saying that part of it is I need to, like, if I'm trying to get a reinspection, I need to. There's a difference between saying damage and new evidence. If I'm presenting new evidence, something that's completely new, unseen, undocumented, never seen before. That's kind of like framing it differently than just pointing to more additional damages, because the adjuster might say, hey, I've already reached the conclusion that this evidence that you submitted was not damage. So why do you say investigation? I don't understand. I really, legitimately, I don't understand. What does investigation mean? Because I think that's a key word that I've seen in some emails going back and forth. And
so the adjuster,
what can you tell me about that?
And the policy has an obligation to complete the investigation, right? To complete an investigation, a full investigation. And if you support new evidence, if you submit new evidence, the investigation is not complete until that evidence is addressed, so they have to complete the investigation. They do not have to give you a reinspection without new evidence, right? Because the investigation is closed, it's completed. So you can request a reinspection, but you have to present the new evidence.
So why don't I just send everything one time in the very beginning, case closed, game, set, match, here it is, mic drop, boom?
I would say there's multiple reasons for that. Like, I'd like to back pocket some things, for sure. And because they will find a narrative or an answer for a lot of things, right? But also, on top of that, if you drop everything one time, one, they're probably not going to review it all in detail, honestly. They're going to glance over, they're going to say they reviewed it, and just, you got 200 photos dropped at once, that's an issue, They're probably going to scroll through them pretty fast, they're busy people. And two, like, they're probably, if you're going to mic drop one email, build your case, and are you trying to get a reinspection or get it overturned? If you're just trying to get it bought off one email, though, this is the issue, right? So they're going to pick your weakest argument, they're going to pick the weakest point of that email, and they're going to focus in on that, and that's going to become the narrative, and they're going to destroy that, and they're going to destroy your argument. So that's why you don't do that. You got to subtly do that. Yes.
Did that happen to you?
State Farm.
When?
Can't remember. A few months ago, for sure. Yeah, they just, I might drop the whole thing. They pick the weakest argument. I honestly can't remember what the argument was, but they picked the weakest one. And I will admit, I remember it was being pretty weak, whatever it was. I was like, okay, yeah, that was stupid. I shouldn't have said that. But they will pick your weakest argument, and they will dismantle.
Do you feel like you're getting better at this? When you say yes, where did you start? Where are you now? What's the difference? And what got you there? So
where I started was not that long ago, like less than a year. So, in the industry as a whole, and as a total, I started. What got me into wanting to learn how to do this, though, is just because in the market that I'm in, this is how it operates. Like, you can knock, or you can gain, however you got to do it, however you get it, like 100 leads. You're probably getting 12 if you're lucky, approved out of 100 leads. And that's just, it's not good. And in the process of that, when it's not good for you and your paycheck too, it's horrible for your homeowners. And that really is what drove it home for me, is the homeowner thing. I've seen people get frustrated. I wasn't making promises, but I felt like, they had an expectation of me I wasn't meeting. And it just kind of hurt to see, like, I'm failing these people in my mind, and I've come to realize that wasn't the case, but that's how it felt to me, So that, like I said, it's definitely not the case. You're not failing them. Their carriers are probably failing them in most cases, if we're being honest about it. But, like, that's how I felt. And I wanted to be able to help consult these homeowners to get what they deserve under their policy that they've been paying for years, right? And that's what drove it for me, honestly, to want to get better at my craft.
So I love the why, okay? But when you started, like, doing this and you were mic dropping to now, what's different and what helped you get there? Like, where are you now in this journey of practicing these?
Still in the process of learning, for sure, but I'm having success where I was in the beginning. I was just shut down, saying the wrong thing, not getting unresponsive, no responses at all, and I didn't realize why, and now I'm realizing, like, it's not my policy. They don't have to speak with me type things, like that. Having the homeowner involved has helped a lot. In the beginning, it was just, I'd send some emails, I'd call, I'd get aggravated, and I didn't understand the process and where I needed to be. And I'd a bunch of phone calls to adjusters who wouldn't answer, and emails they wouldn't respond. And, homeowners started getting fed up and they started experiencing claim fatigue, and you've been dragging them on with no real updates, and you've just been touching them for, having touch points with them for like 3 months with no real update on the claim, to now we're getting them not only to speak with us, but getting the homeowner involved and getting things bought, man. And that's a big deal. Me?
What happens when you get emotional?
When I get emotional in this process, I try to mic drop email. You know what I mean? Like, and then I gotta stop and take a breath. But I try to send what we were just talking about. And I'm much better at it now, and there's a lot less weak arguments in it. But that being said, there are sometimes weak arguments in it, and what we were speaking about before, I'll pick the weakest one. Like that's what happens to me. I'll type up a 800-word email with 17 reports and 400 pictures and send it in and get all mad, try to paint the picture and expect a response, and that's normally what happens. And I don't know if that happens on purpose or they're trying to aggravate you, but that's what normally happens with me. And then before I send it, though, I've got to stop and take a breath. But yeah, I do get emotional, and I normally have that thing teed up, ready to go. And what I do is I save it after I paint them in a corner, lead them into answering questions the way that I want them answered, and to use their definitions or their statements against them. That's when I drop that email that I typed up when I was emotional. like I'll save it, I'll put it in the back burner, I'll put it in a Word document or something, and have everything ready to go.
I've gotten emotional before, for sure. And, I've said things on the phone that I probably shouldn't have said. And, I've sent emails that I'm not supposed to send. I've gotten one-word responses. So, I understand how important it is. Can you think of a real good situation where you did too much, you got emotional, and something fell through because of that?
Not offhand. Are you talking about from a claim standpoint or with an adjuster?
Yeah, like recently, like this week. Like this week, last week, 2 months ago, you went out.
There was one in specific where I almost did. And I believe, I typed the whole email up. I was super aggressive. I was asking questions I really had no business asking. Trying to paint the carrier as a bad guy, type the whole thing up. And like I said, I took a breath and saved it, but I haven't recently, in recent memory, lost one over being too emotional. No.
But you have in recent memory wrote one, not sent it, and then strategically slow played off of it, right? Does that take a little bit of discipline and self-control? What is that?
A week ago now, I still haven't got a response from the carrier. Or it wasn't me. I actually had the homeowner send the email. And it was a simple email. We went out, so I'll give you some backdrop into it. We went out, one of our project managers went out, got a lead, got an inspection. State Farm Cat guy came out, gave him some rain caps, obviously not in the field of shingles, obviously not open coverage for what we're concerned, I went back on the microscope report, got it, cat adjuster came back out on a reinspection, said he was buying 2 slopes, told the homeowner he was buying 2 slopes, but he had to get permission from a supervisor because it ties into valleys and hips, and he didn't tell me why, but I believe that's because he put it over 50% of the value of the roof, and they were going to have to end up buying the roof, right? He came out, told him to buy on these slopes, boom, 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 marked the whole thing up. I took pictures behind him. We have proof of what he marked up, and then he sent it into a supervisor. 2 days later, they sent it in and said it's natural wear and tear, not hail damage, right? After they had already admitted to being hail damage to the homeowner's face. So I got super aggravated. I got super mad. So I did a big long email, and instead I just had the homeowner ask. I was like, okay, let's slow down. Let's get their definition of damage. And I probably should have led with that, to be honest with you, prior to sending the microscope report. Be like, okay, if this isn't hail damage, please explain to me in writing what is hail damage, right? Like, that's a good example of what you should have done. Set that goalpost, figure that out, and then moved in with the microscope report. Lesson learned. But I had the homeowner ask, look, they look similar to me, the wear and tear photos and hail photos. Can you please explain to me what the definition of hail damage is in writing? That way I don't waste your guys' time next time, right? The homeowner
and just to be clear, are you saying that, or is the homeowner saying that?
Like I said, it's been over a week now, and still I got a response off that. So you get more responses off those aggressive emails, but I don't know that you get the result you want at the end of it,
Cool. Dude, so I mean, do you believe in this? Let's kind of wrap out with like just you know, do you believe in it? How does it feel? Where's it going? You know, what are you trying
Yeah,
to
man,
do?
I do.
Shit, stuff like that.
I do believe in the process we're taking. Unfortunately, the landscape of the industry seems to be constantly changing, so it's probably going to be a never-ending learning process, you know. But I do believe in what we're doing, and it's showing signs of success. Like we've had measurable success with it, and on both re-inspections, getting coverage extended, you know, and getting whole roofs flipped from a couple shingles, and like it's self-evident, you know. So yeah, I definitely believe in it, and I hope it becomes like a mainstay and a learning point in the company. People start picking up on this and be able to turn some of their own stuff and really, and if they can't, you know, try to send it to me and I can help them out. But like for the most part, like some of the simple things, I would really like people to start picking up on that, and I hope everybody can benefit from it the way I have.
Final thoughts, final words regarding this topic as we shut it down. If you were telling a guy that's been in the industry, you know, maybe in a different location, that's starting to experience some of this stuff, you know, never done a re-inspection before, what basic advice would you have to give to him?
Breathe, pause, take a break, get your homeowner on your side, lean into your managers, get direction, take direction, but do not freak out. And the main thing, do not freak out and say something that you shouldn't. You know, don't be too aggressive. Don't be overly aggressive. Explain to your homeowner you're there for them, and use them as your tool to get where you need to go and get them where they need to go, because you're just a consultant really when it comes down to it, right? Like it's their policy, it's their claim. You need to learn everything you can to put yourself in a position to properly consult them and get them to where they need to go, and you're going to see the results of that, you know. All right.
Cool. Dude, I love it. Thanks for coming and hanging out, dude. It was good to talk to you. See ya.